Hello everyone. As we discussed in the last class about the concept of ABC costing, right? In detail we studied about what is the costing about. We also even compared with the traditional method of costing, how helpful ABC costing is, especially for the manufacturing concerns where they have multiple product lines in their company, right? So today we'll be starting with the practicals of ABC costing. So here are simple steps to solve. There are 2 steps for each method. I want you to remember this, okay? So under traditional method, as we earlier discussed in the video, that we need to first step is find the overhead rate. Second, find the overhead cost per unit of each product. Why have I told per unit of each product? Because we are trying to get, if the company has product A, B, C, D, etc. So individually we need to find out the overhead cost, okay, for each product and each unit under that. Coming to ABC method, again there are 2 simple steps. Here the first step is find the cost driver rates. Now I have told you what is a cost driver, like number of inspections, number of setup cost, or we also have a number of requisitions made. Requisitions is the purchase order, right? In order for us to get raw materials, we need to place order, right? So many kgs of raw materials are required, okay? So that is called putting up requisition letter. So all those things are called as cost driver. So individually for all these overheads, we need to find out the rate. And then step 2 is find the overhead cost per unit of each product, okay? So applying on the cost driver, we need to find out the overhead cost per unit for, again, individual products of the company. Now please make a note, here we have overhead rate. Always under traditional method, we just take one common overhead rate, let's say for number of labor hours or machine hours, etc. Right? Either one of them, we just take one constant rate and apply it to the entire company. It's not so with ABC method. ABC method, we take multiple cost driver rates. Why is it so? I already explained to you, because we are taking cost in consideration with number of activities, right? The product has to go through n number of activities to become a finished product, right? So based on how many activities the product has gone through, we're going to have enough amount of cost driver rates. So hope you have understood both the steps, that is under the traditional method and under the ABC method of costing. So let's begin with the first question, okay? Now always remember, a well understood question is half solved. So first understand the question, read through it thoroughly. Now here's the question. So I'm going to start with the basic one. Now why should we study ABC costing and how is it benefiting a company? In practical terms, you're going to understand by solving this question, okay? Because here the question is asking us to solve the given problem on both the methods. So then we can compare what exactly is the benefit by adopting ABC method of costing. So the given question here is the total number of overheads, right? All put together overheads comes up to 1 lakh rupees, and total machine hours, that is the number of hours the machine has run to produce A and B products, are 50,000 hours total. Next, this is the given information, right? The basic information, particulars A as well as B. So the company has 2 products, A and B. Units produced. A has produced 2,500 units and B has produced 5,000 units. Material cost per unit, labor cost per unit. For A it's 30 rupees, B 50, labor cost 20 rupees per unit and 16 rupees per unit for B, and machine hours per unit is 10. That means in order to produce 1 unit of A, it takes 10 hours, and to produce 1 unit of B, it only takes 3 hours. You got my point? That is the machine hours required to run for producing one particular unit. The next information completely belongs to ABC costing. These details will be required only for ABC costing. These details are required for traditional costing, these for ABC. So here they have given a breakup of overheads. Okay. Now usually for traditional costing, if you are looked into cost accounting subject, there was no specific breakdown, right? They definitely would have mentioned the number of labor hours or number of machine hours. Now here under ABC, we are looking into what are the activities that has undergone for for product A and product B to come up. So there is setup cost, there's inspection and materials handling. Remember, there are 3 activities and the value is given in terms of what? Percentage. Okay. What is the total overhead over here? Rupees 1 lakh, and the breakup of that total overhead is given here. Okay. So the total setup cost automatically is 35% of rupees 1 lakh. Inspection 45% of rupees 1 lakh, and materials handling is 20% of rupees 1 lakh. It's understood, right? The total cost is given, the breakup of percentage is given. If you have to find out the cost, individual activity, you can just multiply it into the main cost. Next details are how many times, these are called the cost drivers. Okay, the number of times a particular activity is repeated. Particulars A, B and total. Number of setups, that is for product A is 300, product B is 50. Next, number of inspections done for a machine, product A 500 and product B 250. And goods movement, that is the handling of materials, 300 for A and 700 for B. So these are the totals given, 350, 750 and 1000. And that's it. Find the cost per unit of A and B. So hope you've understood how to analyze the question, which details are required for traditional method costing, which details are required for ABC method of costing. Got it? So let's move into the solution now. So let's start with the solution. So first let's solve with using under traditional method of costing. As I told, remember 2 steps. The first one is find out the overhead rate. The second is find out the overhead cost or total cost per unit of each product. Okay. So here find the overhead rate. How do I find out overhead rate? The formula is total overhead cost divided by total machine hours. Now why am I taking machine hours? As I told, traditional costing always considers either machine hours as the base or as the labor hours, either one. So this question is given machine hours, so we consider machine hours as the base. So total overhead cost as given in the question is rupees 1 lakh divided by machine hours are 50,000 hours. So what is the overhead rate? Is rupees 2. So that completes our step number 1, overhead rate. Step 2 is find the cost per unit of each product. So we'll do it simultaneously, product A as well as B. So the first thing, now in the question after they have given units produced, right? Individually they have given for, individually other costs they have given, material, labor, machine hours, correct? So material cost, if you note down there, is per unit. Material cost per unit, labor cost per unit. They already have given you per unit. So we do not have to again recalculate. Whatever is given in the question, material cost per unit 30 rupees, 50 rupees and labor cost 20 rupees and 16 rupees. As it is, you write down. When it comes to the third point, that is the machine hours, they have given you machine hours per unit. Okay, it is hours and not the cost. Okay, so we have to find out the cost. It is the hours or the time taken is given. So here we are going to divide A. To produce 1 unit of A, it took 10 hours, right? So what is the rate provided here? 2. So 10 into 2, we get 20 as the cost. And for product B, to produce 1 product of B, it takes 5 hours. So 5 into 2 gives you 10. Okay. So you just need to total it. 30, 20 and 20 gives us 70 rupees per unit of product A. And for product B, 50, 16 and 10 gives us rupees 76. So this completes the first method. It's very simple, traditional method. find the overhead cost per rate and implement the cost that is given in the question. So let's solve under the second method, ABC method. Step number 1 is the same. Find, over there it was overhead rates, over here it's called as cost driver rates. Okay, so as we looked into the question, we have 3 different overheads breakup, right? That is the setup cost, inspection cost and material handling cost. Now next comes up the cost. Now we know the first line that is given in the question is total overhead rupees 1 lakh. That I have written as a total. Now in the question I have given you percentage of overheads, that is 35%, 45% and 20. Accordingly, I have just taken 35% of rupees 1 lakh is 35,000, 45% of rupees 1 lakh is 45,000 and 20% over 1 lakh is 20,000. So the total has to balance to rupees 1 lakh as total overhead. Next, number of drivers. Now you also have, after the percentage of overheads given in the question, the last part of the question is given. How many times setups was done, how many inspections was done, how many times material or goods movement was done. Okay, they're giving you a breakup of for product A as well as for product B. Now here when I'm trying to find out the total overhead rate or the cost driver rate, I need the total of it. Okay, so for product A plus product B, how many number of total setups together comes up to 350. In the question itself, they've given you the total, the fourth column. Inspection, how many times did it happen for the entire company? 750 times. And the goods movement or material handling was 1000 times. Now the fourth column here is cost per driver. For your easy understanding, I already have given a breakup here. Column 1, 2, 3 and 4. How do I find out column 4 is column number 2 divided by column number 3. Okay, because the cost is given in the question, number of drivers is given in the question, you only have to find out cost per driver. So what you need to do is column number 2 divided by column number 3, that is cost divided by number of drivers or the amount of frequency of that particular activity. So 35,000 divided by 350, 100 rupees. 45,000 divided by 750, 60 rupees, and 20,000 divided by 1000 is 20 rupees. So these are the individual cost drivers according to the ABC method. So this completes our first step. Let's move on to the second step, that is finding out cost per unit of each product. So moving on to step number 2, finding overhead cost per unit of each product. So here we have 2 tables, right? One table we are finding out what is the total overhead cost, okay? And in the second part, we're going to find out cost per unit of each product. So starting with the first, we have 3 different activities, or we call it as cost drivers, right? The setups, inspections and material handling. So overall we found out in the step number 1, okay? Those overhead rates, right? Or per activity we have found out. Now here we are going to apply that step number 1 rate in these particular products. Now setup rate was rupees 100, right? So we are going to see the number of setups for product A was 300. So 300 setups into 100 rupees, that is overhead rate or the cost driver rate, 30,000. 50 into 100, 5,000. Next, inspections. For product A, how many inspections? 500 inspections. So 500 into 60, 30,000. 250 into 60, 6,000. Next we have materials handling, that is 6,000 and 14,000. That means the number of goods movement for product A was 300 times and for product B was 700. The rate we found out for material handling was 20 rupees. So we multiply with that factor and we get 6,000 rupees and 14,000 rupees respectively. So once we total for product A, the total overhead cost stands at 66,000 rupees, and for product B, the total overhead cost stands at 34,000 respectively. So we have got the overhead total cost. Now we need to break it down according to each unit. Now the next is cost per unit. This is the overall picture. Now this is per unit, per product or per unit. Now again, as we did for traditional costing, you remember under the step 2, right? Materials, labor and then machine, right? Now here we are going to consider as overhead and not just machine, because we have lot of activities that are involved. Therefore, I am not going to write as machine cost, but I will write as overhead cost per unit. So for material cost per unit, labor cost per unit, as we did in traditional method, given in the question, just copy paste, okay? That is 30 rupees for A and 50 rupees for B. Labor cost 20 rupees for A and 16 rupees for B. Overhead costs per unit. How do I find out? I know the total cost and I also know how many units A produced and how many units B produced. So therefore, I am going to divide total overhead cost of A, that is 66,000, and how many units did A produce? 2,500. So once I divide that, I get the rate 26.4. And next for B, the total overhead cost is 34,000. How many units of B were produced? 5,000. So 34,000 divided by 5,000, we get 6.8 rupees. So putting all together, all the costs, not just the overhead, all the costs, material, labor, overhead. So my total cost per unit of A is 76.4 rupees and total cost for product B is 72.8. Either you can write it as it is with a decimal or either round it up and write like 77 rupees here and 73 rupees here. Okay, either decimal or you can round up the figures and then and show it up in the table. So this is the final step. You don't have to write. This is just for your explanation. This is not a part of the solution. Okay. So what are we doing here is comparing costs. So I told you, right, since we are beginning with ABC costing, let's see how different the cost is getting affected with ABC and traditional. So under traditional, our answers, that is the cost per unit of A was 70 rupees and for cost per product of B is 76 rupees. But when we actually looked into the details of production process, right, the overhead, the activities, the cost drivers, how much product A consumed, how much product B consumed, etc. Right? When we actually looked into the details and then allocated the cost accordingly, A came up to 77 rupees and B came up to 73 rupees. Okay, so that's the difference here. Under traditional costing, the cost was not allocated accurately or precisely, right? A was costed, the cost of A was lower than the cost of B. But in the actual scenario, that is ABC costing, product A stands higher than cost of product B. Okay, so that is why ABC costing is important, to break up the cost and see exactly what amount of activities product A consumed and what amount of activities product B consumed. Okay, now how is this going to, you may say this is a very small amount of difference and how could that affect a company? I would tell you, when I am putting up this as a cost of production, right? Now cost of production plus your profit margin is all going to give you selling price. Yes or no? So depending upon my cost of production, if it's right or wrong, and I'm going to add my profit margin, and that will derive my selling price. So profit margin I'm not going to change, because let's say it's 10% or 20% on my investment, that's I'm not going to change. Okay, but here if it's wrong, then my selling price, so my product in the market will be priced wrongly, okay, or not correctly priced. Okay, so ultimately this costing method is going to impact my selling price, and selling price is directly related to the performance of the company or the profits of the company, etc. So hope you have completely understood how to analyze the question, how to break down the question into traditional method of costing and ABC method of costing.